Welcome to the Latin Wealth Podcast, a podcast dedicated to educating the Latino community about entrepreneurship, investing, and business.
Yo, what's going on, Latin Wealth family? Welcome to another episode to Wealth Wednesday. Got a couple great topics that we're going to hit on today. Number one, we're going to be hitting on Apple and their strategic moves during these tariffs. We spoke about them a little bit last week during our conversation. And we're also going to be talking about Latin music and their global surge and how it's just been growing at a fast rate recently. So we're going to be hitting on that as well. But with that being said, Jeremiah, how you feeling today? How are you doing?
Doing good. Welcome
Yes, sir.
to Wealth Wednesday, man. Ready to go.
Ready to
Good
go.
topic.
We were just talking before we hit record how the countdown has begun already with you moving to Puerto Rico. So I'm definitely excited to see that transition and definitely want to, I'm sure the audience wants to get a part two of, being out there, living out there, some of the adjustments and some of the changes, definitely want to have that conversation as well.
Let's get to it, man. That's going to be a good episode. I'm looking forward to providing that. All the sounds and all
Yeah,
the view. Yeah.
100%. Love that. Okay, cool. So look, uh, we're going to be talking about Apple. So recently, Apple had a $2 billion iPhone airlift from India. Now, we're going to be diving into what that means and what the heck is going on with all of that. But I want to break down this just before we get into that. Because, look, y'all, the information that's coming out, it's new every single day. Something new is going on. Tariffs here, tariffs there, no tariffs here. It's just absolutely insane. So it's funny because when we posted our last week video, I think we were talking about how the United States hit China with 105% tariff. The day the video came out, it jumped up to like 125%. I'm like, this is insane, man. Just how everything is changing so quickly. But with that being said, Donald Trump hit 145% tariff on Chinese good, a move that put pressure on tech giants like Apple, which rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing for iPhones and other devices. But Trump's latest move lowered that level to 20% for China-made electronic components. So initially, it was 145%, and then I guess he changed his mind and said, you know what? For anything that's China-made electronic component, it's going to be dropped down to 20%. Okay. So with that being said, that brings us to our headline as Apple airlift iPhones worth a record of $2 billion from India in March as Trump tariffs loom. All right. So essentially what they did, just as I'm saying in the title, Apple shipped 2 billion worth of dollars of iPhones from India in a single month to the United States, a record high. They chartered cargo flights to ferries, 600 tons of iPhones to the United States to ensure sufficient inventory in one of the biggest markets on concerns of Trump's tariffs would push up costs. So we spoke about it last week how a typical iPhone that costs around $800, $900 could see a surge of $2,000 for one of these phones. So they wanted to avoid all of that, take some of them inventory from India, ship it to America as soon as possible, right? And again, this is coming off the move from potential tariffs on Chinese made electronics. And what else? Apple is aggressively shifting its manufacturing away from China and into India. And India right now accounts for 14% of iPhone production. So the big picture for Apple that they want to diversify their supply chain. Because look, obviously this can have a huge influence on consumer pricing as we're talking about tech stock volatility and manufacturing job growth in India. So a lot there, but very interesting information as we see Apple aggressively trying to move product around into the United States to prevent tariffs and paying tariffs and whatnot. Jeremiah, what are your thoughts on this? And really the whole Apple situation as a whole we can hit on as well.
Right. We obviously know that Apple has had, excuse me, had their they've had their problems. They've had their issues in the probably the past year and a half to 2 years. They've been struggling for innovation. They've been struggling to try to figure out how to get a hold of the market. They've been losing market share. We saw, I think that's where we started to see electric vehicles may have been first, but I remember us starting to see a tapering off of iPhone
Mm.
purchasing in China, right?
Yep.
And it
Yep.
was it Huawei, I
Yeah,
believe?
Huawei. Huawei.
Yeah, Huawei. There we go. Help me with my pronunciation of it. That's
Mm.
horrible. But Huawei was basically starting to eat into that market share. And I think that all leads to where they're at today. India, they committed super heavy in India, as India's, middle class is the fastest growing. And that is basically sponsored by us putting all our manufacturing in India. So that being said, I feel like Apple is being smart in trying to avoid the
Mhm.
tariffs, but probably should have had some type of uh, some other form or some other income stream set up already. We talked about several times, like, hey, get into the biomed space because everybody's wearing your watches, and I'm pretty sure you can collect all that data from the watches, put the way people sleep, blah blah blah, right? All that stuff. Get into that market, do something, purchase Disney. I believe we talked about that as well. There's a couple of things that they could have done. I just I just see this as a scramble.
Yeah.
It's sad that they have to go to that length to try to scramble. I'm very curious to see what Apple comes out with in June, in their yearly
Gonna be big.
conference.
Gonna be big. It has to be big. It has to
I
be.
mean, I
It
mean, but
has to
we
be.
but we said that last year and they came out with crap. It wasn't anything.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but
No,
look, if
and,
they
and
come out with crap again, I don't know what that's gonna do to the company.
what is and that's my point. Like, I mean, there's still, don't get me wrong. It goes between them. What it goes between them and Microsoft for top company. Nvidia was up there for a while. Obviously, the market pullback has kind of set them out. Apple and Microsoft go back and forth as to what's the number one company, right? Market cap. But that being said, how many years can you maintain off of whatever Steve Jobs has built? How long has he been past now?
Man, let me look it up.
10 years,
Yeah.
something like that,
It's
or like,
probably like 10 years. Let me see.
yeah, if not a little bit more.
Let me see. He passed away in 2011.
Yeah. So look at that. We're at 24 years. I mean, 14 years, excuse me. We're at 14 years since his innovation, since that brain has left that company, right? And you've seen a switch from innovation to more operations, which is good, right? Foundationally, Tim Cook took over and he's great with operations, a tactician of doing things on the day to day, which was good because you need that. But what you've seen is it plateaued now because you don't have any innovation. There's nothing
Yeah.
new that's coming out of Apple. And it's weird because this news is spread throughout the market, and what you end up seeing is you see people that get worried. If I got Apple stock, I'm like, geez, you guys seem pretty desperate.
Hmm.
What happens is that starts to lead to sell off, then the price drop. Like, these are all things that you have to think about when you're making those decisions. But for them, I guess the possible stock sell off was less, right? Or the benefit from bringing over those iPhones was higher than the possible
Hmm.
stock sell
Yeah,
off.
100%.
I mean,
No,
what do you think, Chris?
I think you said it correctly. I think this move is just putting a band-aid over the wound. That's all they're doing. It's a deeper wound, deeper cut, something that's deeper that's going on. And this is just a quick fix, right? And in my opinion, moving, I'm gonna go out and say, even if they move 100% of their manufacturing from China to India, I don't think that's gonna completely solve the issues of lack of innovation. You mentioned a couple times a new CEO is probably needed. Um, and I see that's my biggest thing that we've been speaking about is the lack of innovation, right? How much longer can you ride from 2011, basically the same product over and over? And I know I'm one of the people that have an iPhone, right? But like I said, June is going to be I think it's going to be critical for them. If if last June wasn't a tipping point for them, I think this June is definitely going to be a tipping point for them, where whatever they come out with, it needs to be launched with that product. If they say we're going to launch X, Y, and Z, it actually needs to come out with the product, right? Opposed to last year where we were teased about the AI situation, and I don't even know if it's out yet. To be honest, I it might be on my phone. If it is, I'm not using it. It's not something that's widely spoken about right now.
Sure. And I feel like I said this before. If Zuckerberg figures out, right, because man, he just went on a tear. Like, man, he destroyed Apple. Like,
Yeah.
if Zuckerberg, if he, so we've seen the news. The video obviously was bringing the multi-billion dollars, $500 billion worth of manufacturing to Houston, and then I think Dallas as well was the second leg,
Hmm.
right? So we saw that. Um, People were saying that's because of the tariffs. Whatever, maybe so. Cool, great if it was. That stuff comes if you see Zuckerberg make a relationship with Nvidia, like to like get their chips to start, because you got to remember the Oculus, right, was kind of what knocked out, what kind of
Right.
hit the
For
Vision
sure.
Pro, right? What kind of hit it, and neither one is kind of like taking off. But if he can get if because obviously there's other things going on, but if Zuckerberg can make that alliance or make it happen with Microsoft or Nvidia, he makes that that alliance or makes that partnership happen, then man, it might be, I won't say checkmate, but it might be pretty sizable for Apple, because I've seen them all but just like abandon the headset basically.
Yeah. With that move, that videos that Mark came out with, that reminds me of, and look, I wasn't around when this happened, but when the Pistons were bullying Michael Jordan and Mike hit the gym and Mark literally hit the gym.
Really could you not?
And that was it. Like nobody was gonna bully Mike in the Bulls, and the same thing with Meta and what they're coming out with as well.
Let me drop this before we move. I know we got to move on, but let
No, no,
me
you
let me
good, you good.
let me talk about this. I'd be very interested to see a metric or a graph that shows the innovation level between the various different political parties. I
Right.
kind of have a hunch in my brain, and I'm kind of seeing some things in my brain, but I don't. Our listeners or our watch the people that are subscribed to us, do your research. Look
Hmm.
at when some of the most innovative times for
That's good.
companies are in the United States as far as technology, and look
That's
and see
good.
what president was in office, what party was in office. I kind of already in my brain, I know just based on the years and when stuff was growing, and you see and then the competitive nature between the technology companies that usually creates these very innovative products and the things that push us forward, those happen in certain eras, certain
Yep.
points of
For sure.
I
For
that'd
sure.
be pretty interesting to
Yeah.
like lay that all out, because in
No,
my brain
yeah,
what I'm
yeah, that's
thinking
good.
is
That's good.
you feel what I'm saying? Because a certain party, you're worried about war. You're probably in some type of war. You're probably fighting to survive or some stuff. Like I'm just hey, there might be something interesting to look at. I just thought about that. I was like, huh, oh, that was this president. Oh dang, I'm kind of seeing a pattern. You know,
No, that's that
so
man, that's
I'm gonna throw that out there.
no, that's great. I think that's phenomenal because man, there was a graphic. I don't know if it was exactly what you were hitting on, but it did break down like I think in the year 2008 or 2000, and the years from like 2008 to 2011, the amount of companies that came out of that time, I think it was like Uber, don't quote me on this, but it was like a bunch of different tech companies that came out
It
of
was a
that time
bunch.
frame.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying?
2008 to 2012 was one of the most innovative times ever. Technology,
Okay,
iPhone came out. Like this is like super, like what's just spurred everything. And I'm just saying. And then you look at the AI portion. When did that happen? I mean, it's been there, right? But when did it really start to press forward?
for sure. Dang, I wish I can find that graph, man. That's hold on. I think I may have. So I think I have this. Let me pull this up real quick. And this,
Yeah, let's
okay,
share
this
it.
this this is good right here. Okay, this may not be exactly what Jeremiah's hitting on, but it's pretty darn close. So half of all the Fortune 500 companies were created in a crisis. There it is right there. Look at this. 2008, 2009, 2010. That's literally just what we said. Um, I mean, you got Dropbox, Asana, Airbnb, Uber, Wise, WhatsApp, Beyond
WhatsApp,
Meats, Square. What is this? Snapchat,
Instagram,
Instagram, Wish,
Zoom, Snapchat,
Slack. I use Slack every day.
Pinterest,
Yep, yep,
Venmo.
yep. And so maybe this is kind of what you're hitting on right here. This is,
That's
what is
that's
this,
what
97, 98,
I'm hitting.
99? I can't
Yep,
really
which
see
is you had the
company.
.com guys, right? Those are the
The
early.
dot
Those
com.
are the early
Yep, yep.
innovators.
So I'll
Yeah.
be honest, I'm not 100
Then you
familiar
see
with these guys.
PayPal in
Yep.
2002. You see Google in 2004, right? Which is why they hold such a. And then look at that period
Yep.
there.
This right here, this whole
That's like, right?
crazy, crazy.
And then what's crazy is if you go to like look at so look at
2012.
2018.
Yep.
So look at during COVID. Look at 2019 through 20. This says 2021. This says year to date. But look during COVID.
hmm
You
So
saw
what
some
I'm
company rise. You saw stuff that so go ahead.
not to cut you off. Am I looking at this right? So this is their evaluation right here. Is what these are companies are coming
Are
in?
you?
I think this is consumer exit value. Hmm. I think it is.
Enterprise exit value and a consumer exit. Yeah. So it's consumer. So it's showing stock, right? What we can basically where we can come in and leave at, and then
hmm
the enterprise. So the company itself, where what their actual valuation was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's incredible.
You
That's
see that?
absolutely
You see that?
yeah.
So oh wait. So you know, there's conversations, and I'm strictly looking from economics. There's conversations that your opinion, and then there's facts. There's numbers, right? You can go look who you all know who the president.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know who you know who that was. There's a president, right? Go look up
hmm
that president because people talk so bad about him, but go look up 18 to 6 2008 to 16. There you go. And then you know you call him what you call him. We know he's decrepit and everything, but look at the valuations of those companies. Oh, well, that's situational. Okay. I'm just saying, look at numbers. All I'm saying is look at numbers. That's it.
hmm
Now,
Yeah,
if
this
we
is
talked
crazy.
about commodities, that would be inverse. That
hmm
would be the other group, right? Which would be oil, gold, those things that are like non-correlating kind of like to the market, right? And more indicative of a country that's in survival mode or at war or right, the dollar's weakening and so gold shoots
That's
up.
good. That's
Um
right.
it'd
That's right.
be very interesting to see Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin might be the one outlier where it really doesn't matter. It's just going to do
No,
well. It's just
yeah. Yeah.
astronomically going better. Yeah.
hmm
Just something I was thinking about, man. I'm glad you pulled that up. That's it's all right there.
Yep,
It's on the screen.
100%. Bitcoin probably follows this exact chart by itself. You feel me? Uh, no, that was dope. Good thinking to bring that up because that was very interesting. Um,
So when you think the vote and when you, however, whatever, listen, here's the thing, people, and we always talk about this. We have opinions of what we like and what we feel, right? And what we think, right? Our feeling. And then there's numbers that show
facts.
maybe
Yep.
some people are better for the economy,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, which do you choose? Do you want to feel good or you want to feel empowered and then the economy sucks? Or do you want to, that's all I'm saying. That's
Yeah.
all. Just a thought. Just drop that so people can read.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what else makes the world feel good?
Oh my God, so good.
Latin music.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Come on now. Latin
Yeah.
music streams increased 19% on Audiomack, reflecting the genre's global growth. All right. So 19% on Audiomack, Latin music streams saw a nearly 20% jump from 2022 to 2023 on the platform. And if you guys are not familiar with Audiomack, it's a platform, it's a popular platform in Latin America due to off streaming capabilities and the ability that you don't need to pay for a subscription. All right. So this is a very popular platform in countries like Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, and even in some parts of the United States. Audiomack is a very popular platform. I know out here, people are either Spotify or Apple Music. Um, right. So Audiomack is the one of the biggest platforms in Latin America. And look, we know artists like Bad Bunny, Karol G, Peso Pluma. These different artists are continuing to push Latin music in the global mainstream. Where, look, I've told this story a million times on here. Where we were in Japan one time, we're walking down some random alleyway, and they're playing Bad Bunny, and my mind was just absolutely blown. Right. Um, Look, this and to actually follow up to this, I had posted a picture on Instagram. I think it was posted, it was created by Ria or RIA. Anyways, they stated that the total revenue generated by Latin music in the United States reached a record of $1.4 billion on a retail base in 2024, surpassing the $1 billion mark for the third consecutive year. So that was up 5.8% year over date, outpacing the wider U.S. market growth. The U.S. record music industry as a whole was up 3.3% in 2024. And again, Latin music was up 5.8%. So just throwing out some numbers to give you guys some perspective on how this genre is continually growing. It's going to be very interesting to see the numbers for 2025 when those numbers drop, probably early next year. But what are your thoughts about this?
It takes me back to 2012.
Mm,
I'm Puerto Rican, so I've always listened to reggaeton, whatever, all the black music. Aventuras always been Aventuras, so they've always been right. But
yeah.
it wasn't never like on the level, excuse me, that Bad Bunny's on. All right. It's like 2011, right? And I tell somebody that you realize like Latin music, it'll be like everyone will listen to Spanish music and they won't even know what they're saying, but it's gonna be like the number one thing in the world. I remember people just like laughing at me. And
Right.
those same people, I've written those same people, like, because Facebook, you can see the whole
Yep. Yep.
right conversation. I was like, remember this? And like, dang, yeah, you were right. And so it just takes me to say that our music, right? I think it's the vibe. We were talking
Hmm.
about this, like, well, it makes you feel good. I just think our music makes you feel good. I mean, it's not trap music where everybody's got to die and killing
Right.
everybody.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's like it's dance music. It's dance. It's love. It's feeling good, and it's situational in life, and it's political in the form of
Hmm.
Bad Bunny. And so there's all these things. It gives me just the vibe of like early hip hop, like late 80s, early 90s, like that
Mm. That's good.
political, like conscious rap, like that was pushing and progressing. I'm not saying that this is ultimately progressing, but if you look at Bad Bunny's messages and the things that he's saying, it's very similar, right? It's a unified, it's there for unifying everybody and bringing good energy to the world,
Hmm.
right? And making people
Yeah.
feel good. Numbers wise, I feel like this is inevitable just as Spanish speakers and as, the population continues to grow. South
Hmm.
America is exploding in the population. Obviously, here in the United States, Hispanics are growing. So it's almost inevitable that the music is just going to continue to grow and continue to, elevate. But my question, this is what I want to know.
Hmm.
everybody's been trying to figure out what is the formula for figuring out what they get paid for streams. That's more like I want to figure that out because it's growing like leaps and bounds. So have they increased the percentage that these guys are paid on streams? Because I know originally like they're not paid anything like on these
Mm-mm.
streams.
Hell
So
no.
I'm trying, the math is crazy. That's what I've always tried to figure out. Because you hear
So
these numbers like this and it's like, dang, well, that means they should get an extra couple $1 million.
so yeah, the whole and man, I would love to actually bring somebody on that's deep in the music industry that has experience running up these stream numbers and talking about payouts and whatnot. I think that would be a phenomenal conversation. But I do know that certain platforms have different payouts for the amount that they for streams. So if
Yeah.
I'm looking up a quick Google search, it says, for example, if you have 500,000 streams, the average payout, and I don't know what platform this is. Let me see what platform is this. Um, it doesn't say. I think this may be Spotify, but the average payout for 500,000 streams is 0.004. So your
Point-
estimated
Wait, wait,
royalties
wait.
will be
Point zero
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 four
four
cent.
for 500,000 streams. So you multiply that, you'll get about $2,000 for five half a million streams. That's a lot of streams. That's not and
Half a million streams. You get how much?
point zero zero
How
four.
much
Again,
was
I
it?
don't know what platform this is, but yeah. So the average rate generally falls between 0.003 and
Mhm.
0.008 per stream for major platforms like Spotify.
So these platforms are making their money off of the advertisement, off of the
Cor-
sponsorships.
correct, correct.
I'm assuming. So when people pay that extra money for the premium service with non-commercials, how is that beneficial economically for the service? You see what I'm saying? Something's weird
Yeah.
on this
No,
math,
it
man.
is. It's very weird. It's very weird, and that's why like a lot of artists they've always spoken about like, yo, we miss the old days where we can just sell CDs.
I mean, I do too. I actually like CDs. I
You
love
know,
CDs.
and like and that's why like there was the whole conversation with a couple years ago with NFTs and like I think Tory Lanez, if I'm
Oh,
not
guys.
mistaken, Tory Lanez
Yeah.
like innovative and made like $1 million in 10 minutes because he
He's the first
sold.
person. He's the
He was like
first
one of
person.
the he was like one of the first people to do it. If it's done right, then absolutely that's the way to
That's why Tory
go.
Lanez is in prison right now. I
Yeah,
I think that's why he's in prison. I'll
he
go
got
ahead and state that. I think he broke the music industry. I'm pretty sure that's why he's in prison.
yeah. So
But
he
anyway,
no 100%. Amongst other reasons as well, but we won't get into that. But yeah, it like you said, it's wild that 0.004 is your estimated royalties for these platforms.
I mean, come on, man. That's crazy. So you're telling me Bad Bunny with his billions of streams, he got paid $200,000, $300,000 for like
Yeah,
billions
yeah, yeah,
of
right. And so I think at that point, and this is just my
streams?
opinion. I'm not an artist, but well, in some ways I am an artist. But like Bad Bunny, I think he's leveraging platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Audiomack for exposure, and then he's making money with the merch,
For distribution. Yeah. And the
distribution,
touring.
the
Yeah.
touring. Correct, correct, correct.
But this is why the overall music industry has changed so much because if you remember back in the day, right? As long as they didn't have a 360 deal, which came out probably like in the early 2000s, is if you had a good deal, you only had to tour once
Right,
probably within like a full 2 year span,
for
which was
sure.
between projects. So you toured once off that project. There's guys that never come off the road now because they can't, because
They
all
can't.
their money is made in touring. They literally have a month and a half to 2 months out of like 2 years where they're not touring and they're making another album. And you make that album, put that album out, and they're back to touring for the new album. And that's just, I don't know, man. It seems like that the artists get worn out. But it's also bad because digital music your attention, the attention span is so quick. You
Man.
hear a song and then something else is coming out, and you forget that the artist came out with albums. So you have to constantly come out with new music. It's just, you know,
So that's another part of it that, man, this is like a whole nother conversation. But you said something like, depending on these people's deals, some of these people are getting their advances. Let's just call it. Some people get a lot more, but they may get like a
that's
$50.
alone. That's
Yeah,
alone.
it's a loan, so you may get a $50,000 advance. You need to pay that back. If you are streaming $500,000 or 500 streams, 500,000 streams, and you're only making $2,000, how many streams do you need to get to get to that $50,000 advance?
And you'll never reach it. And you do that without even thinking about it. And so you're constantly in the hole. They're constantly recouping the advance, right? And they put interest on top of that. And so these artists are stuck in like that cycle, that cyclical nature
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
business. And that's why a lot of artists go under and they still owe the companies money, which is crazy.
100%. Yeah, I mean, like that advance be messing people up because they'll give you, if you are like a low key artist that's kind of blowing up on TikTok,
Yo,
they may give you like 50,000, but if you're big, they may give you 1 million.
I'm gonna tell you the craziest thing, the craziest, go look it up. Tory Lanez actually talked about this. He's like the dude's super smart. And so I heard you say, amongst other things, I don't know about those other things because a lot of that stuff would like actually evidence. Anyway, listen, what I will say is this: if you look it up, Tory Lanez talked about the like blowing up independent, like how he basically built his brand, right? And he learned basically the algorithm of being independent and how to use that and how to like
Mm,
grow your presence without needing a deal. A lot of people need to figure that out because that advance, he's like, bro, you could just go to the bank. You
yeah.
could set up a LLC, set up he was telling the gang, he's like, set up an LLC, let your record company, you own
Mm,
that, right? Or whatever, go to ASCAP, get your stuff together. But then all that money goes to that bank account. Then you could just go get a bank account off the revenue coming in that bank account. You can go get a loan off your own money. And
mm,
I was like, yeah.
yeah.
It's
That's
like you
cool.
don't need the majors. You could just go get a loan.
Yeah.
And the terms of that
100%.
loan with the bank is going to be more favorable than paying back the record company.
100%. So this was, man, I don't know what year this happened, but let me see. I don't know. I think it was like 2 years ago. But anyways, Tory Lane sells 1 million copies of his NFT
NFT.
album
Yep.
in 57 seconds.
That is, and here's the craziest thing. If you look into that, the amount of people that made money off that with him was an immense amount of people.
Right,
He
right.
gave you the game of the NFT and told them how to use it as a smart contract where they can make money and everyone made money at the same time. And literally, I promise you not. I promise. Look, after that, that's when all that, all
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
He said he was told not to do that, not to give that game out like that, basically. And once he did that, it was over with. He went
yeah.
to
That
prison after
so
that.
that's, yeah, crazy. It's insane. So look, I don't want to like kind of brush over the success of Latin music because it's growing immensely and it's going to continue to
Crazy.
grow. We're just looking at like, yo, part of this music industry is not, the dollars ain't making sense. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and then when you get it's also decisions, right? Let's be
Hmm.
honest. No one forced you to sign this stuff.
Right.
And that's true. No one forced you to sign it, but so it goes on both sides because the record company's taking advantage of someone that's lived in the usually in a situation that was
Right.
third world, right?
Yeah.
And they have a talent and you're preying on that talent. And so, but it's both ways. Yes, you could have a lawyer. Yes, you could read through it. But we know, you know.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
got to be smart
But
with you, man.
but
If you're
but but
talented
like you said,
artist, take your time.
if you coming from a third world country and somebody's offering you $50,000 right
You're gonna
now,
take it. You're gonna take it.
they gonna take it.
You're gonna take it.
I think that's it for today. We hit on a lot of great information today. I think this was a super dope conversation. If you learned anything from these conversations, these different articles, please let us know down below. Leave us a comment. Leave us a review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. And look, we appreciate you guys 100%. So stay tapped in. We got a lot more content coming out. on this platform. And it's the Latin Wealth family. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace, guys.